Did Chelsea get lucky against Fulham today? And do we really care? I mean, Chelsea winning 2-0 earlier today. I am back from the bridge, and I have to say, and I have to just say this for clarity, because I may have to record another show tonight about the utter madness of our transfer business, and the whole Nicholas Jackson situation is blowing up the timeline at the moment. Is he coming back? Is he not coming back? Is the loan at Bayern going to be completely cancelled? What's going on? There's a bid apparently going in for Fermin Lopez. It's classic Chelsea in the transfer window, but the football is the most important thing, and that is what I'm here to talk about. The 2-0 victory. A hard fought, at times very awkward, in the first half quite concerning performance, but one that got better, and Chelsea coming out with the 3 points against the team I expected would pose problems for Chelsea. I thought tactically would pose so much more of a threat and obstacle for Chelsea to overcome at home than West Ham did. But the way Chelsea got through this game, I guess, it's a little bit of a cliche, but it is one of those games where I think, if you play that, well, we know specifically, especially against Fulham last year, if you play that game out last year, Chelsea don't win it, they lose it. And that type of game, would you have backed previous Chelsea teams of recent years to get through and find a way to get the victory? I'm not entirely sure, because I think there is an ability of this team, and a real good sign that in back-to-back weeks they faced adversity where I've seen examples of Chelsea teams in quite recent history collapse, crumble, or just struggle to get into a groove and find a way to get over the line. Of course, yes, at the London Stadium it's far more convincing than it was today, but this is still a 2-0 win. It's still 3 points. It's still a clean sheet. And there were positives about it. There was also one, I think, big negative from an injury perspective. Chelsea going through the wars at the moment, and yeah, I think that's something we hope can be a little bit soothed over the international break, especially when we talk about Liam Delap. The starting lineup from Enzo Maresca was not an overall shock. It didn't shock me that he stuck with what worked so well against West Ham. The big question about this, and the big shame about this game, is that because Liam Delap went down injured so early on, it's very hard to gauge whether that experiment would have got better over the course of the game. Fulham started better than Chelsea, and I think the majority of that first half was Fulham nullifying Chelsea. Chelsea seemed to have a real lack of balance in central midfield. At times it felt like they were being overrun, they were being outmuscled on the ball. I thought we made some really poor decision making from back to front, really. I mean, I thought it was one of Trev's poorest halves of football for Chelsea, but then he massively improved in the second half. And it felt like, once again, Caicedo having to bail us out on multiple occasions. And, you were kind of watching that game, and I felt transported back to Boxing Day last year, watching Fulham completely outdo us tactically at the Bridge under Enzo Maresca. And also, of course, Craven Cottage, where Chelsea were outplayed, or at least looked completely second best for a lot of the game against Fulham. So it's a sign of Marco Silva's, I think, strength as a head coach. Now, let's get the VAR stuff out the way. I know there were two, and they kind of course, come in both halves here. But I think the key one for me is obviously the moment that could have changed this game and taken it in a very different direction. If you're Marco Silva, I sympathise with his perspective. He goes to the Bridge. He puts out, I think, a really good tactical structure. He limits Chelsea. He makes it awkward for Chelsea. Chelsea don't seem to be at the races. And then you get a counter-attacking opportunity where Chelsea look disorganised. King goes through, he finishes really well, and you're 1-0 up. This is the perfect environment, this is the perfect setup, and then of course VAR overturns it. My initial reaction inside the stadium, with the very, very small clip we get to see, the replay we get to see, not on screens like on my iPad here in front of me or on my phone where I can see and I can rewind it and I can zoom in and all of that stuff. In the stadium, the VAR experience, I've always said this, is atrocious. It really is. It's so atrocious. You have absolutely no clue what is going on. And as I say, the replay you get is very, very short. You get one look at it and that's it. So you don't have the benefit. My initial reaction was that it was very soft. But again, that was from the screens at the bridge being from a little bit of a distance. And as I say, not you get one angle and it wasn't even a couple of seconds. It felt like it was cut off very quickly. So my judgment then was Chelsea have got away with it. And I also it was also biased and kind of informed by the overall tone of the game, which was not going in Chelsea's favour. Chelsea hadn't been cohesive in attack. In midfield, it looked like we're being overrun. Of course, the Delap injury had disrupted things, and Maresca's choice was to bring Tyreek George on. I thought that was quite a surprising but notable choice by Enzo Maresca, because I was sort of looking at the bench and is he going to bring on Gittins? Is he going to bring on Andre Santos in central midfield, and then you push Joao Pedro up into centre forward, or you move Pedro Neto in central forward and you get centre forward, and then of course you could bring on Gittins if you wanted. But no, to bring on Tyreek George, a player that seems to be on the way out, was a little bit of a confusing choice, but I think it kind of signalled that, at least to me, something that I think I can feel pretty confident about talking and kind of analysing, is I think it meant he was, very much set on Joao Pedro being a number 10 rather than a number 9. That's just my instinct looking at that situation. But there is, of course, further repercussions and drama that has followed because of that Liam Delap injury in Germany, in Munich, because of what happened and what it could mean for Chelsea's late transfer business. But yeah, Chelsea just didn't look all there, and they sort of got away with it. Caicedo made a really, really huge block late on in the half, and then Chelsea it felt like for the first time, and some nice moves down the right between Gusto and especially Esteval, lovely flicks and tricks, and it felt consistently like down that right hand side Chelsea looked at their most creative and ambitious and kind of fluid throughout the game. And then, of course, we get a set piece. And the set piece goes in. I think Fernandez overall in open play wasn't amazing. But, of course, he has a hand in both goals. He puts in a brilliant corner and Joao Pedro heads it in. And, of course, he scores the penalty. It does say a lot. And I think Cueva, the set piece coach, probably deserves a lot of credit for this. It says a lot that despite the tactical evolution and advancements and all the things we talk about in open play, Arsenal, I think, have shown how good they are at this, right? That you can be playing kind of poorly and quite badly and be overrun and look a little bit out of ideas. But then if you have an ability to take advantage of set piece opportunities and you are a threat at set pieces, it makes all the difference. And it made so much of a difference in this game. Joao Pedro, using his height, his physicality, and scores yet another goal, another big goal for Chelsea. And it was a huge goal. Right on the stroke of half-time, it completely changes the dynamic of the game. It, of course, infuriates Fulham. Psychologically, they've taken a massive blow. Chelsea have given themselves a massive lift. At half-time, I thought Santos was going to come on, but he didn't make the change, Maresca, and I was a little bit concerned. But Chelsea, actually, in the second half, definitely improved their performance level. Suddenly, Chelsea were a lot more dominant. Joao Pedro was getting into more sort of influential areas. Esteval too was getting a lot more of the ball, and it built up to the penalty. Again, there'll be a lot of controversy, I'm sure, about this. Chelsea getting a decision, we need to change the rules. I think it was a penalty. I think it was a clear handball. Yes, there are probably other incidents that you could look at from VAR of them not being given, but I think it was a penalty. Enzo Fernandez gets the penalty. He buries it 2-0. And you're kind of sat there thinking, Chelsea haven't been amazing in this game and they're 2-0 up. From the rest of that, Chelsea then actually really improved their performance. I think Fulham tactically too, starting off with a kind of a 3 at the back, a 5 at the back, shifted into a 4 at the back at times. I think Marco Silva was trying to get something out of the game. There was suddenly more space for Chelsea to exploit. And Chelsea actually, Joao Pedro should have got a second. There was a moment where he went one-on-one with Leno and just should have chipped him and instead tried to go round him. I think that was a ball from Trev Chalobah, an amazing ball between the lines round the Fulham defence. I was excited by what I saw from Esteval. It was nice to see Jamie Gittins come off the bench, and Chelsea cruised in the end really to a comfortable 2-0 victory against a side they really struggled with last year. Delap, we know, will be out for 6 to 8 weeks, and that in itself leads into the whole Jackson thing that's happened. Because I was sat there after the game thinking, why have we let Jackson go? I thought even before my opinions on Jackson, I do rate him, and I thought, why are we letting Jackson go? This is a guy that averages 10 Premier League goals a year. And then you have this incident where suddenly all your depth and options look a little bit weaker, because if Delap's out for several months with a hamstring injury, I assume, That's what it looked like. You've got Joao Pedro, who's suddenly finding a lot of form, and he found form as a striker before, but this role as a number 10 looks really, really good for him. Cole Palmer's out currently too. We're not sure when he's going to return. There are other players that seem to have a few knocks and, just maybe struggling and with fatigue and getting used to the Premier League or whatever it is. And then suddenly your options with the Champions League fixtures as well look a little bit lighter. So the whole Jackson fiasco and drama is something it's its own it is its own melodrama. It's its own series. We will see. At the time of recording, I've got no idea. I was just seeing it all play out on the timeline whilst I was on my way back home. So right now, what I can say for certain is Chelsea have won the game. We will look in detail at this game tomorrow. I'll be doing what we learned from this game when I've had a chance to kind of relax, rewatch the game and get some more thoughts on it. I want to hear yours in the comments below. I think this was a really important win for Chelsea. I really do. I think for Chelsea, obviously the anticlimactic nature of the opening game, then of course really battering West Ham at home, getting our first win of the season at home against a team who pose awkward challenges. I don't think the performance, especially large parts of it, were convincing. It was by no means a convincing win. But I think the positives I take are from a character, from a mentality, from finding ways to get over the line and just putting those points on the board. It's an improvement on where we were last year at this stage. And with Liverpool and Arsenal playing this weekend and maybe other teams dropping points, it's a great way to go into the international break. So we now see what happens on transfer deadline day and for the rest of this mad window and what Chelsea shenanigans will take place. But that is my review of Chelsea 2, Fulham 0. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Follow across the socials at SonOfChelsea, and I will see you again very, very soon. All the best.